At the edge of Europe, where land meets legend, lies a country shaped by wind, stone, and story. Scotland is a place of ancient castles and endless skies, of misty mountains and restless seas. Here, history is not just remembered, it is felt in every glen, every loch, and every whispered name. This is Scotland. From the rugged Highlands to the rolling lowlands, Scotland's landscapes are as dramatic as the tales they hold. Mountains rise like silent guardians, carved by ice and time. Deep lochs stretch into the distance, dark and still, reflecting skies that seem to change with every passing moment. This is a land forged by nature, beautiful, unforgiving, and endlessly inspiring. For thousands of years, people have walked this land, leaving behind stories etched into stone. Ancient standing circles mark the rhythms of a forgotten world. Castles crown cliffs and valleys, standing proud against centuries of storms. Some lie in ruins, softened by time. Others remain strong, their walls thick with secrets, of kings and queens, of betrayal and courage, of victories won and lost. These fortresses were not merely homes, but symbols of power, resistance, and survival. Scotland's history is one of defiance. Again and again, its people fought to protect their identity, their land, and their way of life. As the sun sets behind distant peaks and the sky burns with color, Scotland reveals its true power. It is not just a place you visit, it is a place that stays with you, a land of memory and meaning, of legend and life. Beyond the first impression, beyond the horizon, the land begins to rise. The Scottish Highlands unfold slowly, vast and unbroken, shaped by forces far older than memory. Ben Nevis stands at the center of this wild heart, the highest peak in the country. Its summit is rarely clear, wrapped in cloud and shifting light, as if the mountain chooses when it will be seen. Snow lingers here long after winter fades elsewhere, a reminder of the cold power that once carved this land. From its slopes, deep glens stretch outward, long valleys formed by ancient glaciers. Glen Spean and Glen Nevis open wide, their floors softened by grass and stone, their sides rising steep and silent. Water threads through them, moving steadily, quietly shaping the land one moment at a time. To the south, the landscape tightens in Glencoe. Mountains rise sharply, their ridges dark and dramatic, cut by erosion and shadow. The rock here feels heavy, almost severe, standing in sharp contrast to the shifting skies above. Clouds slide between the peaks, breaking apart and reforming, turning the glen into a place that feels constantly in motion. Further north, the land changes again. The mountains begin to spread out, their edges worn smooth by time. Moorlands stretch toward the horizon, open and exposed, covered in heather, moss, and stone. Colors shift subtly, deep greens, muted browns, sudden flashes of purple, depending on light and season. In places like Rannoch Moor, the land seems endless. Pools of water collect between patches of earth, reflecting the sky like fragments of broken glass. There are no clear paths here, no obvious direction, only space, wind, and distance. The sense of scale is overwhelming, humbling, and deeply quiet. Ridges and peaks rise without pattern, shaped not by design, but by survival. Each slope tells a story of pressure and release, of ice advancing and retreating, of rock broken down grain by grain. This is geology written in vast strokes, visible in every line of the land. The weather moves freely across the Highlands. Light breaks through cloud for seconds at a time, setting hillsides ablaze before fading again into shadow. Rain sweeps across the valleys without warning, softening edges and darkening stone. Nothing here stays the same for long, and yet, despite constant change, the land endures. The Highlands do not exist to impress, they exist because they always have. This is not scenery shaped for comfort, it is terrain shaped by time itself. And in this wild heart of stone and sky, the true character of Scotland begins to reveal itself. Water shapes Scotland as deeply as stone. It moves through the land with quiet authority, carving, reflecting, and remembering. Loch Ness stretches long and narrow through the great glen, dark and immense. Its surface is rarely still. Wind moves across it in slow patterns, bending light into ripples that conceal its depth. The water here feels heavy, ancient, holding cold silence beneath shifting skies. Hills rise on either side, their reflections breaking and reforming as clouds pass overhead. Further south, Loch Lomond opens wide, softer in its form but vast in scale. Islands scatter across its surface, emerging like fragments of the land itself. The surrounding hills descend gently toward the water, their shapes mirrored perfectly on calm days. When the light is right, sky and loch become indistinguishable, joined in a single endless plain. Rivers connect these waters, flowing patiently from high ground to sea. They begin as thin streams in the mountains, born from rain and melting snow. Over distance and time, they gather strength, cutting paths through rock, feeding valleys, shaping the ground they pass through. The River Spey moves swiftly, clear and restless, winding through open land toward the coast. The River Tay flows broader and slower, reflecting trees, clouds, and distant hills along its course. Each river carries the voice of the Highlands, a constant motion that never truly stops. In quieter places, water rests. Small lochs scatter across the moorland, hidden among grass and stone. Their surfaces are smooth and dark, catching the sky in perfect reflection. Clouds drift overhead, turning these still waters into moving paintings, light and shadow unfolding in silence. Rain is never far away. It arrives suddenly, soft at first, then heavy, transforming the land in moments. Streams swell, colors deepen, stone darkens. The air fills with the sound of falling water, a rhythm as old as the landscape itself. Mist rises from the lochs in early light, lifting slowly, revealing hills piece by piece. Reflections fade and return as the surface shifts. Nothing is fixed, nothing is permanent, and yet everything feels eternal. Water does not rush here. It endures, it waits, it remembers. Through loch and river, through rain and reflection, Scotland reveals its quieter power. A force not of height or scale, but of depth. And as these waters continue their endless journey, they carry the land forward, toward the open sea. Where the land finally loosens its grip, Scotland meets the sea. The edge of the country is restless, exposed and endlessly changing. Along the western coast, cliffs rise sharply from the water, their faces worn smooth and broken by centuries of waves. The Atlantic arrives without restraint, crashing into stone with steady force. Each impact reshapes the shoreline grain by grain, reminding the land that nothing here stands untouched. On the Isle of Skye, the terrain turns dramatic and untamed. The Quilin Mountains rise suddenly from the earth, jagged and dark, their peaks often lost in cloud. Below them, the sea presses inward, carving narrow inlets and deep bays. Water and rock collide here, neither yielding, locked in an ancient balance. Farther north, the coastline stretches wide and open. Headlands push out into the ocean, separated by long beaches of pale sand and stone. The wind moves freely here, unbroken, carrying salt and cold across the land. Waves roll in steady lines, breaking again and again against the shore. Sea stacks stand offshore, tall and isolated, shaped by erosion and time. Once connected to the land, they now rise alone from the water, battered by storms and tide. Birds circle above them, and spray lifts into the air, blurring the boundary between sea and sky. On islands like Harris and Lewis, the landscape feels stripped back to its essentials. Rock, grass, water, and wind dominate everything. The sea changes color constantly: deep blue, steel gray, sudden turquoise, depending on light and weather. Beaches glow briefly when sunlight breaks through, then fade again beneath passing cloud. The tide pulls away, revealing patterns in sand and stone. Pools of seawater remain behind, still and reflective, mirroring the sky above. Every retreat and return leaves a new mark, a quiet reminder of movement without end. Storms gather quickly along the coast. Clouds lower, the horizon darkens, and waves rise higher, driven by distant weather. Rain sweeps across the water, blurring outlines, softening the land until it seems to dissolve into the sea. And yet, when the storm passes, calm returns just as suddenly. Light breaks through, setting cliffs and islands aglow. The water settles, reflecting the sky once more, as if nothing had happened. This is the boundary of Scotland. Not a line, but a constant exchange. Land shaping sea, sea shaping land. Here the country ends, but its story continues, carried outward by wind, tide, and time. In Scotland, the land is never alone. It moves beneath a living sky. Weather is not something that passes through this place, it defines it. Clouds gather without warning, rolling in heavy and low, stretching from horizon to horizon. Light disappears, and the land darkens, as if holding its breath. Rain arrives in waves, sweeping across hills and water alike. It softens the edges of stone, deepens the color of earth, and fills the air with sound. Drops strike lochs and rivers, breaking reflections into motion, turning stillness into rhythm. Mist follows. It drifts in slowly, lifting from water and ground, wrapping mountains and valleys in silence. Peaks fade into shadow, then vanish entirely, leaving only shape and suggestion behind. Distance loses meaning. The world becomes smaller, quieter, more intimate. And then, without warning, the sky opens. Light breaks through narrow gaps in the cloud, spilling across the land in sudden brilliance. Hillsides ignite with color, greens sharpen, rock glows warm, water flashes silver. Shadows move quickly, racing across valleys, transforming the landscape second by second. Sun and rain often share the same sky. A distant downpour darkens one horizon, while golden light floods another. Rainbows form briefly, then dissolve, leaving no trace but memory. In Scotland, contrast is constant: dark against light, stillness against motion. The wind never rests. It moves through grass and across water, shaping ripples, bending clouds, carrying weather from one coast to another. It is felt more than heard, an invisible force tying mountain, loch, and sea into a single living system. As evening approaches, the sky slows. Light softens, stretching long across the land. Clouds thin and break apart, revealing layers of color, gray fading to blue, blue to gold, gold to fire. Reflections return to the water, calm and complete. In these moments, time seems to pause. The land stands silent beneath the sky, unchanged yet always transforming. What was hidden becomes clear. What was harsh becomes gentle. And for a brief moment, everything feels perfectly balanced. This is the unseen power of Scotland. Not in its size, not in its age, but in the way light, water, wind, and stone move together, endlessly shaping a landscape that is never the same twice. In Scotland, the land is never alone. It moves beneath a living sky. Weather is not something that passes through this place, it defines it. Clouds gather without warning, rolling in heavy and low, stretching from horizon to horizon. Distance loses meaning. The world becomes smaller, quieter, more intimate. And then, without warning, the sky opens. Light breaks through narrow gaps in the cloud, spilling across the land in sudden brilliance. Hillsides ignite with color, greens sharpen, rock glows warm, water flashes silver. Shadows move quickly, racing across valleys, transforming the landscape second by second. Sun and rain often share the same sky. A distant downpour darkens one horizon while golden light floods another. Rainbows form briefly, then dissolve, leaving no trace but memory. In Scotland, contrast is constant. Dark against light, stillness against motion. The wind never rests. It moves through grass and across water, shaping ripples, bending clouds, carrying weather from one coast to another. It is felt more than heard, an invisible force tying mountain, loch, and sea into a single living system. As evening approaches, the sky slows. Light softens, stretching long across the land. Clouds thin and break apart, revealing layers of color, gray fading to blue, blue to gold, gold to fire. Reflections return to the water, calm and complete. In these moments, time seems to pause. The land stands silent beneath the sky, unchanged yet always transforming. What was hidden becomes clear. What was harsh becomes gentle. And for a brief moment, everything feels perfectly balanced. This is the unseen power of Scotland. Not in its size, not in its age, but in the way light, water, wind, and stone move together, endlessly shaping a landscape that is never the same twice. When the noise fades, the land remains. Mountains stand as they always have, shaped by forces beyond memory. Water continues its quiet journey, from high ground to open sea, reflecting the sky above without question. Wind moves freely across stone and grass, carrying change without leaving a trace. Scotland does not reveal itself all at once. It unfolds slowly, through shifting light, passing weather, and moments of stillness. Every return looks different. Every glance feels new. Here, time is not measured in moments, but in movement. In cloud and shadow, in tide and rain, in the endless conversation between earth and sky. This is a land that does not ask to be understood, only to be experienced. And long after the mist has lifted and the light has faded from the hills, Scotland remains, wild, enduring, and timeless. Thank you for watching.